All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to StartupConnect 2015. My name is Howie Rhee. I am an alum of the Fuqua School of Business here at Duke, and I also work at Duke. I've got a couple of roles. I work at the business school in the Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation, and I also work with the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Initiative, which is based here out of Gross Hall. It's so great to see you all tonight. I know it's really cold out, so thank you for making the trek across here. I know that bridge right over there to the Bryan Center is iced over, so hopefully you all had a chance to avoid that. I just wanted to say a few things, and then I'm going to pass it to Duke Senior John V. Shaw here to introduce the panel. So the things I want to tell you about are, first of all, what is StartupConnect? So tonight you're here at the first of three components of StartupConnect. So the first component is this networking fair. And the point is we've brought these 30 startups here to talk to you. And so this is a low pressure situation for you to just have conversations. Some of them are hiring, some of them are not. And so this is just a great chance for you to meet them, learn about what they're doing, and learn about the things that they're looking for and the advice that they would give to you. So this is really just such a great opportunity. The second thing that StartupConnect is it's matching and helping match you to startups. So there are a bunch of jobs posted on eRecruiting and at Fuqua as well. And so we're collecting these jobs and getting them together in a consolidated space. And we're here to help you find opportunities in startups. And the third thing that StartupConnect is we have on-the-ground people and events this summer in the following cities: New York City, San Francisco, Miami, here in Durham, and Austin, Texas. So if you end up in any of those cities, we have events and opportunities for you to get connected with one another, and also with Duke alumni and with the entrepreneurship community in those cities. So that is what StartupConnect is. And that's what you're kind of getting to learn about here tonight. So what I do want to say before we jump to the panel is that we do have food that will be here after the event. So text all your friends and let them know that they can come out here and grab some food and meet some cool people. The other thing I want to let you know about is that we're going to have the panelists and the employers leave first so that they can get to the food and get to their stations before it all gets log jammed here. So please just let the panelists go after the event. So with that, I'm going to introduce John V. Shaw. John V., if you don't mind standing up, that'd be great. So John V. Is a Duke senior, like I mentioned. She is a neuroscience major with the minor in computer science and finance. And she helped start StartupConnect last year. I'm going to ask her to talk a little bit about that. So this is the second year of this particular event. She went through Duke and Silicon Valley, and she was also one of our Melissa and Doug entrepreneurs last year. And so if you have any questions, you can ask her about that. And actually, just one more thing before I turn it over to John V. Actually, two more things. One is I do have to thank a bunch of people that have helped us tonight. So Marie Angela, if you can raise your hand in the back there in the green shirt. Marie Angela Della Pia was instrumental in helping make tonight's event happen. John V. also was instrumental. The Career Center, Ann Lyford, I don't think she's here, but Ann Lyford and Katie Smith and a bunch of others there. Adam Klein has been very helpful. Kirsten Shaw, very helpful as well, the Pratt School of Engineering. So we have a lot of people to thank, and so I just want to say thank you to all of them. Yes, I think a round of applause is appropriate. As well. And the last thing I want to do before handing it over to John V. is getting some demographics of who is in our audience so that the panelists know who they're talking about. So let's start with who here is an undergraduate? Raise your hand. And keep your hand up if you're in Trinity. If you're in Trinity, raise your hand. And then put your hands down, and if you're in Pratt and you're an undergraduate, raise your hand. Okay, so we got a heavy undergrad representation. How many folks here are from Fuqua? Raise your hand if you're from Fuqua. Okay, great. How many of you are from another school, not undergrad, not from Fuqua? Raise your hand. Okay, good. And let's just hear what schools are you at? Anyone here from the Nichols School of the Environment? Couple there, all right. Anybody here from the law school? No law school. The lawyers are all busy tonight here. Other schools that I'm missing. Medical school? Anybody?
UNC.
Great. Anyone here from UNC? Our guests from UNC here tonight? One brave soul. Yeah, let's give her a hand there. We do have a, yeah, all right, well, I'll leave that be. And what other schools did I miss? Any other schools that are represented here tonight that I didn't cover? Shout them out. All right, everyone's shy. Okay, so that's any other demographic questions you're interested in? Do you want to know who's worked in startups before or anything else like that? No? You're all good. All right, I'm going to pass it over to John B. to introduce herself and the Startup Connect story and the panel.
All right, thanks so much, Howie. And this could not have happened without Howie either, so everybody give him a round of applause as well. So like Howie said, my name is John B. and I'm a senior here at Duke, undergraduate. And this was I'm just so excited to see all of you out here because this was an idea that I kind of came up with last year after I had done the Duke and Silicon Valley program, and I had realized that at the traditional career fair, which a lot of you probably have attended, there wasn't much representation of startups. And it's really important that Duke students who are interested in startups see this pathway to have a career in entrepreneurship. So we just came up with this idea, why don't we just have a career fair for startups? And that was kind of where StartupConnect began. And it was really interesting because the Pratt School of Engineering was also thinking of this exact same idea. So at the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Initiative, as well as the Career Center, we all partnered together to make this happen. So last year was the first year of the event. How many people were here at StartupConnect last year? Awesome. Well, it's great to see that there's so many new people as well. But we started out with about 20 employers and 300 or 400 students here last year, and that just made us realize that this was really a need among students. So very glad to have you all out here, and we've made a real effort to have a diversity of employers represented. And if there are people and companies that you want to see in next year's Startup Connect, definitely let us know and we'll try to make that happen as well. So we're continuing to expand this, and any ideas you all have, we are so open to it. So with that, I'm just going to kick off the panel, and the way this panel is going to work is it's going to be mostly an open Q&A from you all. So please don't be shy. Ask any questions that you might have about what it's like to be working in entrepreneurship or anything that's on your mind, and our panelists will be very happy to answer. So all of our panelists here today were once Duke students, so we're just going to start out having each of you all introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about your story, when you were at Duke and how you got to where you are today, and also what you're working on right now. So Tati, we can start with you.
Sure. Hi, my name is Tatiana Bergisson. I'm the founder of Mati Energy. You might have seen us at Whole Foods. We're now across the Southeast. It's basically a healthy energy drink, more caffeine than a Red Bull, but delivers over about 6 hours instead of 3.5. So you don't get the jitters or the crashes. It's a third of the calories of other products on the market, and actually tastes pretty good. So that's, I mean, at least we're the best-selling energy drink at Whole Foods in the Triangle, so I think it tastes pretty good compared to the other stuff out there. I was a student at Duke from 2008 until 2012. I started out in the Pratt School, mechanical engineering, switched into economics my junior year. Then I joined InCube. At the time, I was struggling with depression, and I was sleeping about 20 hours a day. So you can imagine how many hours that left for actually getting to class, or really not getting to class. And I needed something to help me stay awake. So I started brewing teas in my dorm room, and it went from 1 cup of tea that helped me stay awake 1 hour longer during the day to 4 cups of tea. Eventually I decided, you know what, I'm brewing too often in the day, let me just make a pot full. I'll refrigerate it so it lasts longer. Several iterations later, I wasn't just using my pasta pot in my Alexander Avenue apartment, I was using a 20-gallon pot and brewing product that I put into kegs to sell to offices after a summer of working on the idea during the Summer Innovation Program, which is kind of now the Melissa and Doug program. I wound up winning the Best Undergraduate Startup at Duke through the Duke Startup Challenge, and that was huge for the company. That allowed us to pivot from being a small, non-scalable keg startup to being in cans, similar to what you're seeing here. And our next step is going into printed cans, going into Costco and Kroger over the summer, so kind of expanding beyond the niche market of Whole Foods. So that's a quick story, quick overview of where we are, hopefully.
And what kinds of students are you looking to meet today?
I am looking to meet students who are interested in sales. So get down and dirty, knock on doors, that's how I've done all my sales. the three biggest retailers that I mentioned, Whole Foods, Costco, Kroger, that was all knocking on doors. And so I'm looking for that kind of person as well.
The other one. Hi, Nick Sehn. I'm the Vice President of Product at AdWerx. AdWerx is a company that's simplifying online advertising for very small businesses. So we empower small businesses to really benefit from all of the really kind of revolutionary advertising technology that's out there to really help grow their businesses. Our company actually just officially founded as a separate standalone company at the beginning of the year. We were spun out of Reverb Nation. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with, but it's another Durham startup founded by a couple guys, including a Fuqua grad. It's been around for a while, doing a bunch of marketing services for independent musicians. So AdWerx is we're basically about 20 to 25 people looking to double in size over the course of the year. Have a bunch of open positions, both full-time and internship, that we're looking for around software development, business development, marketing, product management, all those things. Personally, so I'm a double dookie. I did electrical engineering, computer science. I graduated in 2001, and then came back and did Fuqua. I graduated in 2011. So I got 2 national championships, which was pretty exciting. And worked in the meantime, started at Accenture Consulting, did that for a while. As an engineer, I was in the Bay Area, so I figured I had to join a startup. Did that at an advertising startup where I learned kind of the advertising business. Went back to Fuqua and then started at Reverb Nation as a product manager before now moving on to AdWerx. So we're interested in talking really to any bright, motivated student who's really interested in kind of getting your hands dirty in a startup and learning a whole bunch of stuff.
Good evening. My name is Josh Cohen. I am the Director of Strategy and Partnerships for TransLoc, which I hope all of you have downloaded on your phones so that you know when the buses are coming, both for the Duke buses.
Show of hands, how many people use TransLoc?
All right, good.
Awesome.
Good. Well, thank you. And getting TransLoc at Duke was something that I started when I was a intern at TransLoc between my first and second years at Fuqua, where I graduated in 2007. And it took a long time, but I'm glad it's finally here. I'm glad you guys are benefiting from that, especially on days like this. I'm still smarting from last night's game. I went to Carolina as an undergrad, so don't hold that against me. But it was a good game, so thank you. A little bit on what we're doing. Obviously, you're all using TransLoc now to see when the bus is coming. That's what we've been doing for the last 10 years. We started in 2004, based out of NC State, which was our first customer, and we've now grown to 120 customers, including transit agencies, universities, corporate clients, so forth. The next step and where we're going is helping transit agencies understand their riders better and communicate with them so they can provide better service. Which is what we're doing with a new product called Traveler. And then the next step beyond that, which we're starting to work on right now, is basically remaking public transit. So part of what we think is that transit right now, it works all right. It works in very dense environments, but it could be a lot better. And so we are rebuilding public transit on a platform to help it serve riders better. So to do that, we're going to need engineers. We're going to need especially folks with mobile backgrounds, iPhone and Android, and any folks interested in marketing, sales for interns especially. We would be interested in that. So look forward to meeting all of y'all.
Hi guys, my name is Kornfeld. I went to Duke from 04 to 08. I was Trinity, Econ and Public Policy, double major. I went to work for Bain & Company in Atlanta for 4 years, and then came back to Fuqua and was here from 2012 to 14, so just graduated. I am a co-founder of CrowdTunes. It's possible you've seen it at some point in the Social or Full Steam or Satisfaction or Triangle Pint to Play here in Durham. The basic idea of CrowdTunes is it allows you to walk into a bar, download an app onto your phone, and then see what songs are coming up and bid on the music. So think of it as a jukebox on your phone, but much more interactive, where one person puts 1 credit on Pharrell Williams, somebody else puts 2 credits on Taylor Swift, a friend who doesn't like Taylor Swift puts 2 credits on Pharrell Williams, and they end up going back and forth and seeing who can win. It's really fun when it works. The idea actually came out at Fuqua. Brandon Magsamen is in the back. It was his idea. He was at a dueling piano bar in Chicago, and he saw somebody pay $50 for the Michigan fight song not to play because they were a Michigan State fan. So his basic idea was, hey, there's got to be some way to monetize this elsewhere. And really, it was kind of a stupid idea at the start of business school, but with the help of Howie, the P4E program, Melissa and Doug, Startup Challenge, we've gotten to the point where we raised a seed round and we're growing pretty rapidly. So it's been really exciting and really interesting. Like a lot of the companies here, we're at the American Underground and Main Street. We are looking for developers, sales, marketing. Come talk to us. We're looking for a lot, so look forward to chatting with you.
Hi everyone, I am Jake Stauch. I'm the founder and CEO of NeuroSpire and NeuroPlus. I went to Duke 2009 to 2012, Trinity. I left Duke my junior year to start NeuroSpire. We make brain-controlled software, software that interfaces with EEG devices to read your brain activity and do cool stuff with it. I started off, I was working at the Center for Cognitive Neuroscience in the LSRC nearby doing EEG research, and I came across this field called neuromarketing where people were actually scanning people's brains while they watched commercials to see how they responded subconsciously to the things in commercials and what makes them buy things and what makes them not buy things. And I was really fascinated by that concept, so we started NeuroSpire as a neuromarketing company that kind of took that concept and made it very easy for companies to do this with off-the-shelf EEG devices and completely automated the process of analyzing data. That business grew and continues to grow, but in the process we discovered a better use of the technology and a more fun use of the technology, and that's to train cognitive abilities with brain-controlled video games. The process called neurofeedback and biofeedback, you can actually take something like attention or something like anxiety or other issues, and you can train that and improve that over time with these brain-controlled video games. So right now we're building a product called NeuroPlus for kids with ADHD, a video game that requires them to focus, sit still, and control their impulsivity in order to play. So it's really, really cool. We're looking to grow the team this year probably. We're looking for people interested in sales, marketing, in addition to a lot of developers, people interested in game design as well as web, iOS, and in general design and art stuff. Thanks.
All right, well, thank you all. I think that gave you all a lot to think about. So now we'll take some questions. So, yep.
This question is mainly for Tatiana and Jake. So what influenced your decision to start your business in college versus waiting after graduation?
All right, so let's repeat the question in case anyone didn't hear. So she was asking what influenced your decision to start your business while you were in college instead of after graduation, and specifically Tatiana and Jake.
Well, the honest truth is that I was an Incube and I was told I had to start a company. They had really just recruited me because they needed a woman to be a part of Incube, otherwise Duke wasn't really going to give them any money, I think. So they told me to come join if you want to start a company
awesome.
One day, and I was like, yeah, when I'm like 40 after I get my MBA and I meet smart classmates and whatever. And it just kind of happened that I was struggling with the depression, and I had been brewing teas already, and at that point I was already doing the pasta pot thing, and one of the incubers just told me, or one of the cubers I guess it's now called, told me I should just bottle it, and how hard can that be? Throw some on a shelf and start selling it. And getting my hands dirty, that's what this job has been a lot about.
Yeah, I was at the Cognitive Neuroscience Center and getting paid, $8 an hour to clean people's EEG headsets after they were done, so scrape the gel out of the inside of the caps. And I heard about this field of neuromarketing, and companies were charging, in some cases, $200,000 to do a study that would take me about 30 minutes to do. And that idea just got me excited. I mean, probably mostly just to make money at that point. I was working for practically minimum wage, was scraping gel out of these headsets. So it was just really exciting that I could take a skill that I already knew how to do, and there were people willing to pay me for that. That's what really got me excited about it, and then it grew from there.
Next question. Don't be shy. Yep.
What challenges or accelerators have you found being in Durham versus somewhere like the Bay or Silicon Hills?
Okay, so the question is, what challenges or accelerators have you found in Durham as opposed to being in the Bay Area or elsewhere?
Yeah, I'll say a couple things on that. I mean, I think, so I worked in the Bay for 4 years, and there's a lot of cool stuff going on there. I think one of the, I'm sorry. Yeah, one of the challenges I found in being in the Bay is that there's a lot of distraction, and there's a lot of things that like, it's really easy to look at like the really cool thing that somebody else is doing, and you can get distracted about like what your core business is and what your strategy is that you've decided that you should go forward with. And often it's important to know what else is out there so you can kind of refine your thinking, but it's also important to focus and like kind of set a direction and kind of go down that without flip-flopping between other ideas. And so I think being in Durham and the triangle kind of broader is there's less of that kind of going on. It's obviously growing. There's 30 companies out here, but I think it's an environment that feels more sustainable to me than the Bay. It's like it's either you're gonna be $1 billion company or you're gonna be nothing. And I think here it's about building really solid businesses that can grow really nicely over time. I think on the challenging side is there's a growing but still kind of lack of just kind of supply talented people that want to work and start companies. And so I think probably every one of us here, all these companies here, want to be bigger than what they are today, and it's about finding the right people that fit with our business.
Yeah, just to tie this question to the previous question, I mean, some of that is that risk aversion, right? It's having enough people that are willing to say, yeah, I don't know exactly whether this company is going to, be a Google someday, but I'm willing to try. And one of the neat things about trying that in school is you're a little bit, you're a little cocooned a little bit, right? It's still real problems. You're still creating real businesses, obviously, which is awesome. But you kind of like I've got 3 kids, right? It's a lot harder for me to start a business today than it was 15 years ago. So having that kind of balance is something that I think this area, that is one of the challenges is there's not enough folks. I think when you go out to the Bay Area, a lot more folks are just kind of used to, you try something, it doesn't work, you try it again. The first company I did out of business school was a real estate startup in 2007. We were underfunded, we weren't leveraging technology as well as we could, we crashed hard. All right, pick up the pieces, you move on. So I think that's definitely something I think about.
I can build on that just a little bit. For us, funding is something we hear a lot about and talk a lot about, and it's a hot topic here in this area. Generally speaking, there's less funding here than there is in Silicon Valley. I think Brandon probably ended up pitching 100 times between May and December. That's not an exaggeration, really, like 100 times. So that's hard. But the positive is that really makes you do it well. It really makes you question the things that you're doing and ensure that you're really answering the questions that are being asked by investors. And there's a number of companies locally that have been really, really successful, and most recently WedPix, I don't know if you guys read about it, in raising money. There is money here, but in order to get that money, you really have to be solid. And I think that's probably a good thing.
Lee, I bet a lot of people don't know what WedPix is. Can you just say what they are and how much they raised?
If I remember. WedPix, they're based out of HQ Raleigh, and at its most basic form, what they're doing is it's primarily targeted at brides, and the brides get everyone who's coming to the event to download their app and then take and share their pictures. It's a fairly basic, straightforward idea, but it's brilliant, and it's a huge market, and as you might imagine, the best way to get more people is by somebody at a wedding that uses WedPix getting married, which is happening all the time. What did they raise, Howie? I don't remember. 3 million?
Five.
I think it was more than that. I think it was 5 or 5.5 actually, including one of the sharks from Shark Tank, her kind of conglomerate. So there's really good stuff happening here, and Windsor Circle, who's here today, has been doing some great stuff as well, and been really successful raising money locally.
Great. Yes, in the back.
Okay, so for your company, when you were there early on, how do you guys sort of define a company culture? Like how do you define and find the right people in order to make your company what it needs to be eventually?
Okay, so the question is, as an early stage company, how do you define the company culture and how do you find the people that fit with that culture?
I think honestly at the earliest stages it's more about you find the best talent you can find and the people that can do the best job, and the culture kind of evolves from there at the very early stage. I don't think our company for instance is at a stage where we can really take a top-down approach to have in company culture. We need to find the best people we can and kind of let it grow from there.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that all of us, I think, have found in our involvement in these companies, and you gave the example earlier about knocking on those doors, is you just hustle. I mean, the summer I interned at TransLoc, I was making hundreds of cold calls, just testing and trying and so forth. So, I mean, we've all done that in various ways, and I think the hustle part of it, I think you can't be too good to hustle, right? You guys are the smartest people in the world. You're sitting in this room. You're going to one of the best universities in the world. You can't be too good to hustle. You got to hustle. You can't overthink it.
You have to be willing to clean the toilet if you have to. Like, working at a startup is a dirty job. Like, almost literally. There's nothing that should be beneath you when you're starting a company. Like, yes, I'm going out as one of the 6 companies in the country to pitch at Google, and yet I'm not too good to go make my delivery to Cocoa Cinnamon tomorrow because my distributor can't make it out to the weather. Like, everybody in the company at a startup has to be willing to do any other job to make it great, make it successful, and get you guys to the next step.
Yeah, it's a really an interesting question, and actually right before I came to this, we were having a meeting about company culture with a handful of us, and our company is actually at this interesting point where I think at the beginning everybody's so focused on building the product and getting that out the door and getting customers, and it's really at that point you're a product and you're trying to sell that product, and then eventually you kind of transition to now we're actually building a company, and there's this point where not everybody at the initial stage, you're hiring people that weren't there at the beginning, and once you're doing that, then you're starting to actually have to kind of codify and define some of these things of what are our core values, what is our mission statement, and they feel really soft and squishy of things that you should do, we should actually just build the product, but at some point they become really critical to attracting and retaining the talent that you need to continue to grow that as a company more broader than just a given product. But it's challenging. I know it's a great question. I don't know the answer of it yet because we're not fully figured it out.
I'm laughing a little bit because I think back to our Program for Entrepreneurs class, and there were people pitching how to bring power to hospitals in India, or people trying to solve ADHD, really important problems, and we would walk up and say, we want people to drink beer and bid on music. But we try to keep a light culture in terms of what we're doing. If you walk into our office today, Brandon spent about 20 hours taking old CD labels and making a huge mural of our logo. And right next to it is a cardboard cutout of David Hasselhoff that we bring to all of our kind of events. And we recently hired our first non-founding hire. And I was on the phone, Brandon was in the room next to me, I was on the phone acting like a venue owner who has no clue how to use an iPad, and he was literally laughing next to me. It's fun to kind of try to define these things. We do a video of the day. We try to do really fun stuff that kind of offsets the stuff that's really hard. But you keep it light, and we love doing it.
Great answers.
Yeah, I'm just curious, any one of you can answer this, but I'm just curious how you get past the initial, okay, this is just an idea, maybe good, to, oh, this is actually you. How'd you get there?
So the question is about how do you get past just having an idea to saying that this is a really real thing and getting mentors and support and funding?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on what you're doing. I mean, I think software is one of the things it's really cool that you can either build something or you can build a prototype. You can build wireframes and have somebody look at it and give you feedback. But yeah, I mean, I think it's you gotta show it to somebody, and I think that's one thing that startups can be afraid about. Of like they protect their idea too much, and they think it's so revolutionary that if they told somebody else that all their secret sauce would be gone. But successful startups, it's really about execution. I think so. I don't think you can't be afraid to show your ideas to people, and I think getting feedback from potential customers that's critical. How you find those people, I think it depends so much on industry by industry. Right now for AdWerx, we're working with real estate agents, and so we went out and everybody knows a real estate agent, even if you've never bought or sold a house. And so we just found people that we knew, and we brought them into the office, and we showed them software, or showed them screenshots, and got feedback from them, and said, how would this help solve your business or grow your business? And some of their ideas we took. And some of the things we heard what they said and try to really interpret it, what we thought they were saying, and then we iterated on that.
Yeah, going off of that, I think it's just really important to share your idea with as many people as possible, and especially potential customers. And when you really know is when somebody's willing to pay you just on the spot for something you haven't even built yet or that you're planning to build, because that's when you know that it's not just a problem that people think is cool or something that people think is interesting, but it could be an actual business, is when people are willing to get out a checkbook and say, if you built this, I would buy it. So I would look for that kind of strong feedback.
Yeah, and again, it depends on what you're building. But if someone's not going to buy it, you got to have somebody that can buy it. And I think that's, again, I love that advice, is getting out in front of people, seeing what they say, seeing if they'll write a check, right? See if they'll write a check even before you build it. See if they'll write a check to help you build it. Right? I mean, that's the real way to determine if you have something, and that takes that courage to kind of stick your neck out there a little bit.
Which I mean, like platforms like Kickstarter and Indiegogo, like I mean, those are great channels to like put an idea out there and try and get that pre-funding and stuff. I mean,
And that goes all the same advice for consumer products. We're not any different just because we're not a software company. I was pitching at the end of summer of 2012 just an idea for selling kegs to offices and restaurants of this energizing tea product. And at the end, I had one of the co-founders of Shoebox come up and say, "How much does one cost? I want one delivered on Monday to my office." So that was when I realized, okay, maybe this idea has some legs. Fast forward 6 months, I was at that Shoebox office doing tests with employees to find out and refine the recipe with them. And that's where we found out that people were drinking Mati instead of Red Bull, and we have their Red Bull consumption once Mati was put on tap with them. So that kind of gave me the insight of what consumers were looking for.
Awesome. All the way in the back.
Do any of you have the hope or expectation to actually move to another region? And if so, like what sort of conversations have you been having, and what sort of details would go into that conversation? And if not, what about the discussion of when you initially incorporated as a startup, and where you were thinking about where you should be located?
Okay, so if I can summarize a little bit, you're asking, have you guys thought about moving your startup to a different location? If so, what are the kind of like conversations that go into that? If not, what were the conversations in deciding to be here?
We're staying in Durham. I mean, I think we love Durham. I think Durham is growing. I think we're a spin out of Reverb Nation, which is a Durham company as well. And so I think that was just kind of where we were. But I can't foresee us going anywhere else.
Yeah, I think a lot of us could talk all day about how much we love Durham, and we're definitely saying it's a great place to do a startup. And in the beginning, why we chose Durham. I mean, I left school without any revenue for the company, so I really just needed a cheap place to stay. And Durham was cheaper than a lot of areas in the country to live, so that's why we stayed there. And then once you start hiring people, the quality of life at the cost of living, I don't think there's a lot of places in the country, in the world, that have that like Durham does, and the Triangle in general.
And don't forget the infrastructure. I mean, you know, I've called Howie at least 10 times over the course of the last couple of years with questions and who could I talk to about this, and he's made introductions and so forth. So, you know, having that infrastructure here locally, having the ability to go into those bars that you go to get drinks at and say, hey, by the way, I'm a consumer here. I come here every Friday night, and oh, by the way, we've got this product I think you ought to test out. Gives you a lot more leverage. So.
Yeah, and I mean, on that front, you know, from our initial hypothesis, our target customers were 21 to 35-year-olds, ideally in college towns that like to go out and, you know, hang out and bid on songs. Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill actually work pretty well for that. You know, I expect we're staying here, you know, as I mentioned, or as these guys have mentioned, there's just a lot of great stuff going on, and I can't discount the fact that the American Underground stuff, in addition to the stuff that Duke is doing, provides you with an incredible network here of people who can help. People who have went through what you went through. People who can be mentors for the things you're going through. And also provide a nice network for recruiting people, right? You know, we're working hard to get Duke and UNC and NC State students to start doing this more, and that's why you guys are here, and that creates a great ecosystem for this.
Would one of you all explain what the American Underground is for those in the audience who might not know?
Tatiana.
Yeah, sure. So American Underground is a shared office space community. So it started out with one location in American Tobacco campus in the underground basement section, and they realized, you know what, we see offices and startups needing office space for 2-3 people, and that's really hard to come by in any city. So we're going to make that possible. It's Capital Broadcasting, which is run by a very successful family in the area. They said, oh, that's a good idea. Well, here's some money for it. You can use some of our space in the basement. So that's why it's called American Underground. And that was started, I think, in 2010, 2011 maybe? And since then, they've expanded to 2 more locations, and the second location they expanded into, they now have 4 floors dedicated to that space, in addition to the original space and in addition to the Raleigh space. So I think
200 startups.
So it's 200 startups roughly. It's a great community to be a part of. It's kind of like having a real office space to work with and a real community around you. That's kind of hard to come by when you're a startup. And they have tremendous resources. They were selected as one of the Google for Entrepreneurs hubs, which means we get a ton of resources through Google, and we have companies being sent out to Google to pitch every year, and gives us a lot of publicity as well. So a really nice office to work in.
Thanks, Patty. All right, so we'll take one more question. Over there.
So some of you might have already touched on this topic before, but I want to hear a more comprehensive answers, because I understand that starting a business from scratch is very, very hard. And could you tell us more about what was the biggest struggle that you have ever faced with, and how did you conquer it?
Okay, so the question is, what is the biggest struggle that you've ever faced while starting your company, and how did you conquer that?
For us, it was making our first sale. I did cold calls for 9 months straight, pretty much all day long. Probably nearly 1,000 prospects before we got our first sale. So that's a really demoralizing experience. You're pretty sure that you don't have a good idea at that point. Because people keep saying no, or they keep saying maybe next week or maybe next month, or contact us in 6 months. And then you know, you just keep pushing through it. And in our case, I don't know if that was the best decision, but we kept going. You got the first sale, and then the second one comes after, and then things start to move from there. But yeah, I think starting up, you know, we bootstrapped to start, and that was really difficult to do.
I think for me it was psychological. So I was just coming out of major depression, and I spent 2 years every morning asking myself, is this really what I want to be doing today? This thing that's really hard to do, and I don't really know what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm working on it by myself, and a lot of challenges, and you don't really know early on if consumers are really going to want your product, and so it's hard to find the interest and the passion to pursue what you're doing. But after 2 years of every day saying, yes, today I will dedicate to today to working on this company, after 2 years of that, then it was waking up and being like, oh, what do I get to do today to make Mati great? And since then, we've been growing really fast and had a really, really exciting traction. So for me, it was all psychological, I think.
I think for us, it's been finding the right people to help where we couldn't. So, Brandon and I, both our background is in consulting, and we're business students. So early on, it was finding somebody to build a prototype. That's a current junior here, Davis Gossage, who worked over the summer to build the prototype in summer of 2013. Then it was finding somebody to help us maneuver through the legal piece of doing anything with music, which is a nightmare, and how he helped connect us with somebody who was the former CEO of TouchTunes, a big jukebox provider, who got us a licensing lawyer. Ultimately, we had to find technical co-founders, which was really hard to do, but we found a couple of great technical co-founders that have built the current app, and most recently it was finding the right strategic investors. That stuff is really hard, and what it really comes down to is just pushing. I mean, you've heard these guys talk about it. Jake was saying that Tatiana was literally like sitting outside of like the office for Kroger and Costco people, sending them messages being like, I'm here, can you meet? This type of stuff, like those stories, they really resonate with us, right? And it's a lot of just hustle in order to get that stuff done.
I'd say for us, it was, we spent 9 months building kind of the first version of our product, and it came to a realization that we actually built the wrong thing, and then had the courage to kind of, not really throw that away, but really take a huge, kind of change in direction on what would the next version of the product was going to be, knowing that it was going to cannibalize some of the sales that we were already getting. And so I think it was just, and that was coming from, getting the feedback from our customers, and not necessarily, actually they didn't tell us they wanted this product, but some of the things they were saying, the light bulb went off in our head. It was like, oh, actually that's what we should have built. And then, just being, having faith in ourselves to really kind of understand that we actually got it, we're going to get it right this time, and make that investment again, and give ourselves a second chance. And, luckily it paid off.
All right, so before we wrap up here, I just wanted to give a couple of reminders to the audience. So I'm going to give you guys one last question, but afterwards we're going to let the employers all go out first and get to their tables before you all meet them to talk to them, as I'm sure you're all very excited to do so. And we'll also have food available right after this. So just be patient with the panelists and employers and let them get out before you all do. And really encourage you all to have these amazing conversations with all of the employers who are here today. And they're really just people who want to talk to you about why they're so excited about what they do. So with that, I just wanted to ask the panelists to give one piece of advice you would have for all the students here in the audience.
If you're looking for a job, think about what you can do to help make that company great. So think about what skills you can do or what mentality you have that you can bring to the table to really make a difference. I don't really care that much what you studied. I care what you can do and what you're willing to do. And more of the attitude that you have of learning and pushing through. And you've heard that time and time again, hopefully from the panel today. So really think about what you bring to the table.
Yeah, I would say, working at a startup is not a risk. It doesn't have to. It's not a risk to your career, to your future career. Even if the startup completely fails, you're going to learn so much about it. And I think companies generally view experience at a startup in a very, very positive light. And I know from a hiring perspective, we often look at employee or people that are trying to join a company. If they're coming from a large, big company, I have questions about that. I have questions: do they have the hustle that we've talked about? Do they understand what it's like to work at a startup? And I think the other way around, it doesn't really work. Like I think big companies, like they see people that have worked at a startup, and they're like, wow, they have that entrepreneurial spirit. So I think just do it. I don't think there's any risk to doing it. And there also doesn't have to be a financial risk. I think you can find the right fit for you There are companies that have very strong entrepreneurial like spirit in our startups that pay market rates. So.
Yeah, I think the piece of advice I would give is think about the why. Why do you want to do this? And whether that's starting your own company, working for a smaller company. And I think if you can get to the why, I think that will help, as Tati mentioned, like really get to what you can then do to help. So I think having that orientation on the impact you want to make and why, I think will help guide you.
This is certainly centered around our experience, so actually founding a company, but applies anywhere. My recommendation is find people who challenge your ideas. Within our company, Brandon and I often go back and forth and we clash on stuff, but ultimately come to a better solution as a result. Find mentors, find peers, find people who can take the ideas you have and pick them apart so you actually get to the best solution.
Yeah, I'm last, so I don't know if I can really add to any of that stuff. You pretty much ticked all my boxes. I mean, yeah, just really, if you're approaching the companies today, just really think about the skills you can bring to the table. Big difference working with startups is that you're kind of a part of the team from day one, and there's not going to be a 3-month onboarding process where you learn what you need to do. So we really look at skills and just develop the skills and hone the skills that you need to get where you want to go.
All right, well, thank you all so much for coming and speaking to everyone here today. Let's give them a round of applause.
Great, and like John B said, we're going to let all the employers go out first. And let's just see a show of hands. If you're an employer in the audience, Brian, I see you there, raise your hand. That way people will know to let you out first. And I do just want to say one more thing for you. So tonight, the employers are here until 9 o'clock. What you're going to see is there are going to be lines, 10 people, 15 people deep to talk to some of these people, and I think it's worth it to stand in a line and just spend that a little bit of extra time and have that one-on-one conversation. Ask them anything. It does not have to be a job-related question. So thank you all for being here. The other thing I want to say is that I'm happy to meet with any of you. I'm happy to give you advice about career or startups, so please reach out to me. My name is Howie Ree, hwr2@duke.edu. I'm happy to talk to any of you. Have a great night, and thank you for being here.
How are you?